Great. So thank you. I'd like to call the regular meeting of the San Mateo County Harbor District Board of Commissioners to order on February 17th, 2021 at 1:01 p.m. Roll call, please, Melanie.
Commissioner Matoush? I think you're muted.
Yes, I was here.
Commissioner Zemke?
Here.
Commissioner Lorenz?
Here.
Commissioner Chan Crawley?
Present.
Commissioner Ryring?
Present.
Okay, we have a quorum. Everyone's here. And so I will now open up the public comment section for people who would like to speak on items that are not on the agenda. And from what I can see, I don't have, oh yes, I see one hand raised. Is that what you see as well, Lizzie?
Sure do. I've just sent a request to unmute.
Great. And so this is Chrislyn Geitz from the Half Moon Bay Coastside Chamber of Commerce. Chrislyn, welcome.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to give a big thank you to the Harbor for doing such a wonderful presentation last week at our State of the Coastside. Jim and Virginia were fantastic. We've gotten lots of great feedback that people really felt like they learned a lot about the Harbor. So I just wanted to say thank you so very much for that. And secondly, I wanted to let everybody know that next week on Thursday, we're doing our Awesomeness Awards. So we've changed things up a little bit, and we wanted to celebrate the businesses that have gotten through 2020 and made a splash while doing it. And so we'll be celebrating 20 businesses. And if you visit our website, you could sign up. Tickets range from free to a super awesome wine bag. So everybody's invited to come and just really have a Zoom party with us and celebrate the cool businesses on the coast side. So thank you again.
Thank you. I don't see any other hands raised, Lizzie, just to make sure that you're seeing the same thing. Lizzie?
Sorry about that. My connection kind of cut out for a second. I don't see any further hands raised.
Okay, and then I will close public comment and we'll start the regular agenda. And before we get on to the consent agenda, I just want to, and I know that General Manager Pruitt mentioned this to the commissioners and it's kind of been out in the press, but I want to say that the Coastal Commission on Friday approved the CDP, or the Commercial Development Permit, for the West Trail Shoreline Living Shoreline project that we've been doing for the last 6+ years, pretty much the entire time that I've been on the board. So I want to give a shout out and a huge thank you to the many board members over this time period who have been involved with this project, especially including Nicole David, who was instrumental, I think, in terms of lining up the consultants, Brad Danitz, and just getting things lined up. Even so, when she left, and I kind of took over her binder, if you will, everything was in great order. But really, the staff has done a great job. The public has been very vocal and supportive, and I guess given their input, they've been giving good advice and input that in being creative and things that we might not have thought of. And I think as we continue to move forward, I think it's a project that this community and all of San Mateo County can be very proud of. I know that the Coastal Commission staff report mentioned that one of the biggest benefits of approving our CDP was this, as they quote in their report, the promise of living shorelines can be put to the test throughout, well, quote unquote, throughout California from our project. So this could be a really great model for other areas to, within California, to protect the California coastline and not just the West Trail shoreline. So I want to give a shout out to, all of the people who were involved including former commissioners. And a huge shout out to Supervisor Carol Groom, who was also on the Coastal Commission and actually kind of introduced this item. So, she was instrumental in, kind of helping to get this final approval. I know that I was at the Coastal Commission meeting and Commissioner Lorenas was there, and General Manager Jim Pruitt and our consultants, Brad Danitz. So thank you for being there. Nancy, Commissioner Wiring, I think, was also listening in. So thank you for being there. As you know, we were at the mercy of the Coastal Commission schedule, but it was definitely worth all of that. And I know that, so thank you, Commissioner Lorenas, Commissioner Wiring, and General Manager Pruitt for being there. I think it shows a lot of support that we have from our board and our staff. And kudos to the state of California and San Mateo County residents, because I think we're all going to benefit from this. So with that, I will move us to the next item, which is the consent calendar. Is there a motion to approve the consent calendar?
I'd like to pull an item, please.
Okay, sure. Commissioner Lorenas, which item?
Number 4.
Number 4?
Mhm.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the other items minus number 4, which would be 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10?
Motion to approve.
I will second that.
Okay. Any discussion? If not, then let's do a roll call, please, Melanie.
Commissioner Zemke,
Aye.
Commissioner Lorenas,
Aye.
Commissioner Chang Corrali,
Aye.
Commissioner Wiring,
Aye.
Commissioner Matoush.
Aye.
So that motion carries. And so why don't we go to the discussion items and we'll come back and loop back to your item number 4, Commissioner Lorenas. So let's start with discussion item number 11, which is the 2021 ad hoc and standing committee review. Well, we're reviewing that in the assignments. So these committee assignments were based off of feedback that I received and asked for a month ago. And so I assigned committees based on all of the feedback that I received. I just want to, so there are 3 standing committees that are being populated. And since they are standing committees, I would like to suggest that we, my suggestion is to assign the chair position. So for the finance committee, I would like to assign myself as the chair for that committee. For the HR committee, I'd like to assign Commissioner Wiring into that chair position. And for the OPM committee, I'd like to assign Commissioner Matoush as the chair. But otherwise, these are the standing committees and the ad hoc committees and the liaisons. Any questions or comments? If not, we'll move on to item number 12.
No, I have some questions and comments.
Okay, please, Commissioner Lorenas.
Even though it's very likely that most of the folks that are members of the public that are watching this, it's better if we don't use acronyms when possible. So I would suggest the OPM, just put Oyster Point Marina, so members of the public who are new to this know what we're talking about. Just a point of reference, not a big deal. And then I assume that what the district is doing with committees is continuing the concept of not allowing members of the public to sit on committees as voting members. Is that right?
We're following our current policy, Commissioner Lorenas.
Okay. So if you members of the public and commissioners, you'll notice that I'm, excuse me, that I'm not on any of these committees. And that is because I refuse to sit on a committee that doesn't allow the public a vote. And the reason for that is, like I've said many times before, but I'll say it again, is that it's in my view, it's important to have members of the public sit on committees as a voting member. And I'd like to remind everyone that what committees do is they help the district do some of the work. And once they've done their study, they will make a recommendation if it's appropriate to the board, and the board would approve the results or the recommendations, or send it back to committee if they don't approve. So the point of that is that while having a member of the public actually voting on a committee, it does not change the ability of the board to control what we do. We always vote on recommendations from the committee. We are one of the few, if not the only committee that does this. And it's a radical change that was done over the last few years. And I'm in complete disagreement with it. And I will not serve on a committee that doesn't allow the public to vote.
Thank you. Any other comments from commissioners on these committee assignments?
Now, it's also important to understand that nothing ever prevents the members of the public from attending the committee meetings and making public comment and having interaction. So it's just simply a difference of viewpoint.
Actually, Tom, it's not exactly accurate. And I've made this point before. There is an absolute difference.
Point of order, through the chair. Commissioners should not be responding to each other in this manner. They can speak to the room.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Wiring. Commissioner Lorenz, would you like to say what you said earlier in response to Commissioner Mateusz?
Well, we're going to be playing these games forever. Okay. Dear room, I'm responding to the room. And what I'm saying is, and I've said this before, and I don't appreciate this game. So what I'm saying is there is an absolute difference between having a member of the public sit on a committee and actually have a vote, and having the ability of a member of the public walk into the room and sit there and listen and actually be able to interact back and forth. That's true, but they don't have a vote. So what's offered to the district, to the board, is what the commissioners, and usually it's two commissioners, what they decide to bring up. Now, if you have a member of the public, that member of the public actually has a voice in deciding. And there's another reason for this. When I first started as a commissioner, for members of the public that don't know this, our committees have two members of the board. Well, if that's the case, then as was the case for me when Robert Bernardo was a commissioner, he refused to sit on one of my committee meetings, and I spent 8 months trying to have one meeting. So if you have a member of the public, you have two people that can, a commissioner and a member of the public, you can still have a quorum, and that forces the other commissioner to be engaged in the meetings. So it's very different. The other thing, as I've said before, for members of the public who would like to have a chance to see what it's like to sit on a committee and be subject to the Brown Act and learn a little bit about public service, our committees that would offer a great advantage to someone who would just like to see what it's like and see how they feel about doing actual public service. It's a service that we can provide. And the other reason is, if you provide the public with an opportunity to have a vote on a committee, you can bring in people with expertise and have them actually sit on your committee, which is what we had done in the past. So it is absolutely not the same thing as just having someone walk into the room and sit as a committee.
Thank you, Commissioner Lorenz.
Through the chair, I guess I had a question. Since I'm new on the district, could somebody kind of fill me in on what's the normal protocol that the district's been following as far as, are these committee meetings noticed? How often are they held? Things like that.
So Commissioner Zimke, there was a time when there were no public members because the board believed, and rightly so, that elected officials were representing the public. then there was a short period of time when members of the public became voting members on standing committees of the commission, of the board. And unfortunately, during that time, these standing committee members who were public members started directing staff. And after that, instead of allowing the elected commissioners to do their jobs. So after that, the commission or the board reverted back to its original policy. So we did try this, and the board voted this back to its original policy, which is what we're following right now.
Okay.
So I hope that helps.
Yeah, but the meetings are noticed. So I mean, the public
They can
knows
attend.
to be held, things like that. Okay.
And they're Brown Act committees, Commissioner Zimke,
Okay.
which required, Brown Act training. And there were concerns that the Brown Act was being violated during that time. So what we have reverted back to is the original policy. And we tried having these committee structures changed for a little bit.
So in the past, when that was done, the commission was actually giving some authority to the public member.
Yes, that's correct. Even though the elected commissioners are the ones who do represent the public.
Correct. Okay.
So these are the committee assignments for 2021, and I would,
Please.
well, I would like to move on to item number 12 because we have a pretty lengthy agenda, Commissioner
we do.
Lorenz.
That's true, but if you're going to rewrite history, I'd like to.
I'm not rewriting history, and you've had your say, Commissioner Lorenz. I would like to move
Most
to
certainly
item
are
number 12.
rewriting history.
No, I'm not, Commissioner Lorenz. I believe that's your
are, and you should
opinion.
give me a
I'm
chance to-
giving the facts. So
Fact.
I would like to move to item number 12 so that we can get on with the business of the district. These are the assignments of the
Okay, I would
committees,
like to
and that
point
is the
out, I
president's.
still
I'm
object.
sorry, I'm not done speaking, Commissioner Lorenz. That is the prerogative of the chair to make these appointments and assignments, which
So
I
you're
have done based on,
Point out you're silencing me.
I'm not, you're interrupting me. I am not done.
Will you give me the opportunity to speak?
You've already had your opportunity to speak.
Oh, you are silencing me.
No, I'm not silencing you. I've given you two opportunities to speak, and you're blaming me or accusing me of rewriting history, which I'm not. So I would like to continue with the business.
So
Okay.
you are silencing me.
No, I'm not silencing you. That's your opinion. So we're moving on to item number 12, which is approve the
Statement of
proposed
fact.
changes to the commercial activity permit template. Julie,
I think this is Jim's.
or Jim?
It is my item, and I will, let me move the agenda along here.
And I believe this is this the item that Commissioner Matoush has to recuse himself from?
I was just waiting for a shoehorn to get in here to recuse myself.
Thank you.
Commissioner Matoush will notify you when we're on the next agenda item.
All right, thank you.
And I'm loading the report now. President Corrali, board members, good afternoon. In January or late last year, we looked into updating the commercial activity permits for charter boats and other businesses that conduct commercial businesses at the Oyster Point Marina and Pillar Point Harbor. We developed a draft document and put it on the agenda for January. At that time, after getting some feedback from some of the current commercial activity permit holders, we realized some further adjustments needed to be made to the documents before seeking board approval. So we asked that it be delayed until this board meeting to present the final draft copy for approval. We did redraft the commercial activity permit. We're recommending that they be split into two types. One is the vessel commercial activity permit, and the other is the shore-based business commercial activity permit. We drafted those draft documents. For the passenger vessel draft, That draft was forwarded to all current commercial activity permit holders that operate passenger vessels, both in Oyster Point Marina and Pillar Point Harbor. And for the draft shore-based commercial activity permit, that was also forwarded to all current cap holders for shore-based businesses. We've received the feedback from several captains and one current shore-based permit holder, and I incorporated their recommended changes into the draft document that you see here before us today. Some of the significant changes that were raised during the January meeting were that captains were required to be responsible to escort every passenger to their vessel from the pier down to on the docks to their boat. That proved to be difficult to enforce and to comply with. So the new requirement in the cap is written such that captains are now responsible to not hinder the docks as best as possible. And the same thing, we had a requirement in there for passenger vessels to submit quarterly earnings statements. And after further review and some feedback from passenger vessel owners, we don't need to know that information to collect passenger service fees. So that requirement was also removed. Barring any questions from the commission, that's my report beyond the staff reports submitted.
Okay, so I just want to make it very clear to everyone that the reason that Commissioner Matoush had to recuse himself is that he has a charter boat business that's within the harbor, and this decision could affect him. So that's why we will now have 4 commissioners discussing this item. So I'd like to open it up to discussion to the other 3 commissioners. Commissioner Ryring?
President Chang Crowley, I would like to make a motion to approve the proposed changes to the commercial activity permit templates.
Is there a second?
I will second that.
Okay, then we'll carry on with any discussion. If there are any discussion topics you would like to bring up. I know that we have 2 members of the public with their hands raised. I'd be happy to take public comment now and have the commissioners listen to public comment. And if any commissioners would like to discuss the motion after public comment, they're welcome to do so. So Lizzie, there are 2 hands raised. One is for Bob Ingalls and one is for Captain Smitty.
Yes, I've sent a request to unmute to Bob Ingalls.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, commissioners. I'm Bob Ingalls, longtime owner of fishing vessels, working in the harbor for well over 30 years. And I own the Half Moon Bay Sport Fishing. I think it's good that you're getting rid of the quarterly reports from the boats because things change. It's added bookwork. But the main thing I want to talk to you here about is you're getting rid of the captain following the customers and bringing the customers down to the boat, which I think has been a hindrance and has been hard to comply with throughout the years. But there should be crew members on the boat. If there's no crew members on the boat, no deckhand on the boat, no captain on the boat's turned off, the boat's lights are off, the crew members should stay at the top of the dock. And that's where I think the problem comes in. When the crew members or the passengers, I should say, come down the dock, they stand on the ramp, they're in front of the boats, people can't walk by. That's where the biggest problem comes in. Not to mention, we're not looking towards the COVID restrictions. People should be at the top of the dock, stand at the 6 feet apart with the mask on, waiting for a crew member who's on the boat to bring them down to the boat. That's the biggest distinction right there, I think, that will make the biggest difference. It's you have some kind of control. And if you book your customers, whether you work through a store or you work on your own, and you book the customers, you have to convey to them the importance of doing it this way and following the regulations and don't just everybody pile on down the dock and get in the way. That's been the biggest problem, I think. And I think that's where the harbor's hearing the feedback, the negative feedback from. And I'll drop it right there. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next public speaker is Captain Smitty. You can put 2 minutes on the clock and unmute Captain Smitty. Lizzie, that'd be great. Thank you.
I've sent the request.
Thank you.
Okay, hopefully you could hear me.
We
Hello?
can.
Okay. Good afternoon, commissioners. My name is Captain William Smith, owner of the CPV vessel Riptide. I'm glad to hear that the proposals that I put forth have been largely have been recommended and are being implemented. I wish to thank you very much for that. Though there is one area though that I did not see discussed, and I'm sorry, I'm on vacation working from an iPad here. It was over the per passenger harbor ticket fees, which we are now paying $241 per passenger. This is again, we are paying a tariff per passenger that comes down the dock. And as you've all read in my my letter, this was put in at a time when we were the major impact, our customers were the major impact on the harbor. They are not now. We represent less than 5% of that, the capacity of people walking up and down the docks here. So I'm as I said, this represents to me a tariff that we're paying that is not being covered. Now, I understand there is going to be a separate activity permit that is going to be generated for the off-boat sales. I highly recommend that that you follow that path. So there will be equity between all businesses that are on the pier. And if anything, I would like to also see these per passenger ticket fees reduced. And with that, I will say thank you very much. Have a very good afternoon.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second on the table. Any further discussion on this agenda item in the motion in particular, now that we've heard public comment? Okay, if there are-
Yeah, I just like to say that I believe that Jim has shared this information with our local captains and integrated their comments into his recommendations.
and the staff report.
Yeah.
Commissioner Lorenz, do you have a comment? I see
Yeah, I
that you're
do. I have
unmuted.
a question for Jim. So the question I have for you is on our first speaker from the public. So can you give me an idea of how the change in the regulation will work with respect to people getting down to the docks and then onto the boats?
Right now, the Harbor District doesn't have any policy or physical barrier to prevent people from going down on the commercial docks. So the policy states that it'll be the captain of the vessel's responsibility to manage the passengers for their vessel. So we'd be looking to those captains and whoever books those trips to advise their passengers before they arrive, when they book their trip, of the rules to stay up on the main pier 6 feet apart. Don't come down until you're signaled. However, that captain decides to bring their passengers down, either sending a crew member up or that captain going up him or herself. What we're trying to prevent is crowds, and Captain Eagle's right. We're trying to prevent those crowds from blocking the docks for other people to use and remain safe. It is the standard that we all know in this meeting that if a boat owner or a crew member is not on board the boat, you don't get on that boat.
Right.
So I don't know if that's a problem down there, but if it is, I would lean on the vessel captains to address it in the same way vessels going down to the docks, or passengers going down to the boats when nobody's there, to advise their passengers when to come down.
Okay, thank you.
There's a motion and a second on the table. If there's no further discussion, Bill, do you have any, Commissioner Zimke, do you have any?
I'm fine.
Then let's do,
President Corrali, Bob
yes.
raised his hand again. I think he wants to respond.
Okay, Tricia,
I might have misquoted him.
oh, okay, okay, Mr. Ingles.
Sending you the request now, Mr. Ingles.
Okay, thank you. I realize it's probably a little bit out of line. I thought this was going to be on a separate issue, but it's not. So I would like to kind of go back and talk about the ticket price for the per customer and give it a little history. So back in the mid 80s, I was on a citizen action committee that the harbor used to have with a lot of us store owners, charter boat, commercial guys. We had an action committee, and this came up a long time ago where the harbor wanted to charge something for the charter boats because we were the biggest user of the harbor at the time. And we were fighting the surcharge for the tickets, but the issue of parking meters came up, and they were going to seriously put up parking meters, and this in the harbor, and this went on for years and years and years. And we could never, we seemed to resolve this issue to make it equitable, fair and equitable for all the users in the harbor. And so the charter boat per person came in and was in for a number of years as this issue kept revolving. And finally, I come up with the idea to put a gate in up there where you first turn in off of Capistrano, come into the harbor, put a gate in where you could maybe have a ticket given to everybody in a validation or something if you went to a business, and everybody had agreed that was probably the most fair thing to do it. Paying for the parking was not a fair idea with everybody's mind. And I would assume if this is going to continue as the way it has been, then I'm sure it has to be fair across the board. I mean, Oyster Point, I know some guys have fished 6-packs out there. I don't know if they're legal. I don't know if they're signed up on charter boats. I don't think we have any there right now at this point. Ferries, I mean, I think we have ferries and they pay it per passenger. So I think there's other ways that we could look at this, and I'll drop right there. My time's up. Thank you.
Thank you. So Jim, we do have an ad hoc committee on revenue and income. I mean, I'm ready to vote on this, but if you think that maybe we need to bring this into a committee discussion to take into account, you know, the public's input, I mean, we could do that too.
President Corrali, the passenger service fee is in the cap because it is what the current rates for the approved rates for the district state. I think the rate discussion for the passenger fee belongs when we come to the board annually on the fees and rates set by the district. It's at that point we seek input on what the district charges for different services. And that's the proper place for that.
Okay. Okay, so we do have this motion from Commissioner Reiering and a second from Commissioner Zimke. So why don't we take a vote as to approve the changes to the commercial activity permit, the proposed changes, if there's no other commissioner discussion. Roll call, please, Melanie.
Commissioner Lorenz,
Aye.
Commissioner Chang Corrali,
Aye.
Commissioner Ryring,
Aye.
Commissioner Mateusz, Commissioner Zumke.
Aye.
So that motion carries. Thank you very much. And thank you to the public who took the time out to come and speak with us today. So now we're moving on to item 13, which is the commercial activity permit and potential fees for off the boat fish sales. Jim?
President Corrali and commissioners, I want to.
Oh, wait, we need to get Tom back too. Commissioner
Melanie, can we get Tom back?
I've just reached out to Commissioner Matoush to let him know that we've finished that item.
Thank you. Thanks. You make sure that Commissioner Matoush is using the right link.
I sure will. I'm contacting him now.
You know, Jim, I think that we should, oh, there's Tom, Commissioner Matoush.
Yep, he's back.
Great, thank you. So, Jim, would you like to continue or start your report again, please?
Thank you, President Reiring. Commissioners, this is, staff is seeking direction from the board on a policy question. And that policy question, should the district investigate new revenue of this type of fish sales to bring equity between sales and other tenants in similar businesses, i.e. fish buyers unloading fees, off the dock sales, and some retail leases. And what we're talking about there is a fee for all the off the boat fish sales. There's several different policy and ordinances and laws from the state of California for the district to set fixed rates for wharfage charges and other charges. Our ordinance code says the same thing, that we shall establish rates and fees. And to enforce on those rates and fees, we also have an ordinance code that requires commercial activity permits for commercial activities. Finally, we have a ordinance code that allows us to also issue limited commercial activity limited commercial activity permits for activities that are specified in limited duration. Currently, the district allows off the boat fish sales directly to the public from boats. And it is a very popular program and it has grown exponentially over the years. Right now, the boat owners or the captains submit for a limited commercial activity permit for that every year, and we issue that limited commercial activity permit to sell the fish. Some of those permits are valid all of them are valid for all year, and it's not limited in time or scope. Currently, as a comparative, passenger service fees for passenger vessels are currently $2.41 a piece. In fiscal year 1920, the district received $2,400 and $12 for permit fees, in addition to the $22,891 in passenger service fees. Fiscal year 18-19, the district received $3,870 in permit fees from passenger vessels, and we received, in addition, $28,359 in passenger service fees from those same vessels. Off the dock sales, for the permit fee only, because they do not pay a percentage or passenger fee, is limited to $276 per permit. And the total revenue received for off the dock sales for 2020 was $11,592. And that was permits only. The tool of the limited commercial activity permit, again, is supposed to be restricted to just a limited scope and duration, like a weekend or a week. Never intended for long-term. And I think over time, the off-boat sales have turned into an annual event, not necessarily specified dates. And I don't think the limited activity permit is the proper tool. It is my belief, based on our ordinances, that full commercial activity permits should be issued to the boats that are engaged in off-the-boat sales. I drafted for discussion only, a draft concept commercial activity permit for off-the-boat sales that I've included in this staff report for consideration. I'm asking the board to approve that permit today. Again, it was only for discussion, and I'm looking for direction from the board if they want to pursue this avenue or look into the equity of what we charge other commercial activities in the district compared to what is charged for off-the-boat sales. And noted in the staff report, the fish buyer lessees that operate at the end of Johnson Pier, per their lease, when they sell fish or crab to the general public, they have to, per the lease, pay the district 2.5% of the gross sales. During fiscal year 19-20, that was only $293. And then for fiscal year 18 and 19, that was $411 for the 2.5% from those gross to the public for off the dock. I'm assuming with COVID that might have changed. Those numbers will go up this year, but that was the historical amounts that we received from them. The other commercial activity permits, such as the kayak shop and the individual who sells wood carvings, all pay percentages on top of their base cap fees. So in summary is, should the district investigate this revenue type for off-the-boat fish sales, equity between the sales of other tenants and similar businesses? Should we just continue with the status quo?
Okay, so it looks like we have a public comment too. I'd like to open it up to the public comment. And I believe our first public comment is from Tyler Butler.
I've sent the request to unmute.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Butler.
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. Yeah, so I'm a little concerned with the idea to put something in place that takes more money out of a fisherman's pocket, or not necessarily pocket, but business. I'm sure you guys are all aware we're already being hindered quite a bit with loss of fishing season time and a lot of other things, COVID-19, everything, loss of sales. Not to mention the fact that, this year, well, every year the price for permit, fish and wildlife permits, licenses and everything goes up and nearly doubled this year from last, which is, in excess of $1,000, just for the annual renewal fees. Now we get hit with this, and on top of the fact that, Fish and Wildlife has a permit required for doing the sales, and it's like $120. Your guys is $270, which is quite a substantial amount more to do the same thing. We pay a pretty good premium for slip fees every year. There's like a minimum amount of permit parking spaces for slip holders. I'm just I got a few complaints here. So anyways, you guys are taking quite a bit from us, and the resources available for us, like this working harbor doesn't have any storage for commercial gear like a lot of working harbors do. When we leave, to fish in other ports and you guys rent out our slips, you pocket all the money. You don't give any kickback for our monthly slip fees. There's a lot of things that these other working harbors allow their commercial fishing fleet that we don't get here. So now you're talking about taking more money out of an already greatly impacted industry. And I guess maybe that just puts some things into perspective. Thank you.
Thank you. I see another hand raised for Jake. Lizzie, if you can unmute Jake.
I've sent the request.
Thank you.
Oh, hi there. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah. Also a commercial fisherman like Tyler. Just wanted to chime in with a few thoughts. I understand the desire for the harbor to generate more revenue, and this is, in my opinion, low-hanging fruit. And I would highly recommend that this gets redirected or dropped in terms of putting another financial burden. As Tyler already mentioned, the off-the-boat sales permit from the harbor went up this year. It goes up every year. The cost of staging crab pots in the unused parking lot, the upper lot, has gone up in the last couple of years. And those are expenses that, we have to incur going up every year. And I think if you want to talk about, there was mention of a level playing field between the different businesses that operate, in the harbor. You're talking about the wholesalers who do resale sales. You're talking about guys like me who do just retail sales off the boat. And you're talking about the charter boats. I understand the desire for equity among all the businesses. However, in order to produce a truly equitable system, you have to analyze each business on its own and the expenses and the overhead that those businesses have, because you can't just assign a tax to a business not knowing how that tax impacts their business. So that's just a couple of my thoughts about it. Again, thank you for your time.
Thank you. I see no more hands up, so I'd like to open up the discussion to the commissioners.
President Chang Crowley, I'll make a motion before we start the discussion. I move to direct staff to work with stakeholders to discuss issues, opportunities, enforcement, and constraints in the equitable collection of fees from commercial interests as they relate to direct off-the-boat sales, and bring back options for board consideration.
Is there a second?
I will second that.
Okay, so to kick off the discussion, I'd like to open it up for commissioner comment, commissioner discussion. Now, I do have a question for the general manager related to Commissioner Reiring's motion. Jim, do you think that this might make sense as you work through, or as the board and the district work through these issues, that maybe this is something that the ad hoc committee should look at, the ad hoc committee on revenue and income, which was primarily put together by me to look at how we deal with economic recovery for our tenants, since about 35% of our revenue is from enterprise funds, which means that we're dealing with some form of making at least cost recovery for funds for cost recovery.
Yes, I think President Corrali, I think this would be an excellent topic to refer to that committee or the finance committee to discuss it more in detail. Our intent is, if the board does expect us to research this further, that we would work with the fishermen and also other users of the port, and also compare to other marinas in the area to see what they're doing also, and provide a full and complete staff report back to the committee to be forwarded to the full board.
Okay, so just a reminder to everyone that these committee meetings are public meetings, and even though ad hoc committee meetings don't necessarily have to be in strict compliance with the Brown Act, I do think that since this is an important topic, that we probably should have public notice for this particular item to be considered by, or to be discussed at that committee level. Jim, so if you don't mind, if we take this back to the ad hoc committee for revenue and income, that we notice this properly so that people can come and make comment. Number one. Number two, Commissioner Ryring, your motion says to bring back options to the board. So do you want to maybe amend this if you believe that it's the right place to go for discussion into the ad hoc committee of revenue and income? Where we do the committee work and then bring back options to the board. If so, I don't know if it matters that we amend the motion to include the ad hoc committee or not. Tricia, I don't know, do you have any say in that?
I'm
or-
open to that. I'd like to ask Jim if he feels that the finance committee or the ad hoc committee would be the most appropriate committee if we do bring it back to committee.
My original thought was finance committee when I was thinking of this, until such time that the revenue and income committee was formed. But I truly believe that it would be a better fit in the revenue and income committee.
Tricia, do we need to amend that motion then to include the revenue and income committee? Or
I think just for clarity, you could restate the motion to include giving direction for staff to investigate this and take it to the revenue and income committee, just to make it more complete.
I mean, we can have further discussion on that too, Commissioner Ryring. I don't want to put you on the spot, and I'd be, happy to include all of the commissioners' viewpoints on this. So it's up to you, but I mean, we can open it up for more discussion as well. Commissioner Mateusz?
The staff has done a great job in talking with people at various times. I don't see that there's any issue with staff working with people, the revenue and income committee working on things sooner rather than later. I don't want to see this thing just languish forever.
Okay, Commissioner Lorenas, do you have any comments?
Yes, I have a question for Jim. So Jim, I'm wondering if bringing this subject up offers an opportunity to have a holistic view of direct off-boat fish sales in general. How we do it, are there any changes that need to be made, what the public thinks about it, what the folks that are selling fish to the public, give people an opportunity to weigh in.
I believe it does, Commissioner Lorenas, in the fact that the draft commercial activity permit that was drafted for discussion only addresses a lot of those issues of which how they're conducted, when they're conducted, how they have to maintain their product, how their product could be sold, is all included in that cap.
Yep.
And under the state regulations or state guidance that we received. So most definitely, when we're discussing the specifics about the cap, that'll all be in public, and will encourage public participation on those topics.
Okay.
Commissioner Zemke?
Yeah, I'm in favor of this. I know it's probably an appropriate time to look at the equity issue and who is playing their fair share. And I do understand that the off the boat sales have increased drastically over the years, although I've never been there to witness it, I think this is an appropriate thing to study.
Commissioner Ryring?
Yeah, President Chang Crowley, I just also in support of my motion, I just want to say that my impression is that we're just working to get this a little more self-sustaining. It's extremely expensive to run a harbor on the limited commercial activities that we have. So I'm very supportive of staff working on this matter and trying to bring us up to date.
Okay, so my comment, I mean, I would agree with that too, in thinking about this again. But I do want to say, Jim, for me, this is a safety issue too. You know, I was out on the pier a couple of weeks ago, and I saw a lot of, you know, I mean, people selling crab and sea urchins and like from the back of their trucks, and the trucks were completely lined up against that south portion of Johnson Pier, and it became, and you know, and it was packed, not just with the trucks, but with people walking, you know, there buying fish, buying crab, whatever. And it just struck me that, you know, from a safety perspective too, I think that is an angle that we need to look at as well. So that would be from my perspective. I'm not sure, you know, where we are, you know, with allowing these types of sales, whether or not there's a permit, but I also think that being able to sell from the pier, or, you know, and paying is kind of like a license. It's a privilege also. And while I understand the plight or the concerns that some of the members of the public have brought up, you know, there are also tenants who are paying what they should be paying in compliance with our permitting rules and our process. And I think the equity issue is a strong one that we need to look at, because as an enterprise, if this is the enterprise side of our budget, it needs to be at least, you know, making some money to deal with cost recovery. And I think that bringing this back for a discussion would allow us to look at the safety aspect and the enforcement aspect, because I'm not sure, you know, how these kinds of off the boat sales are being enforced if they're not permitted. I just don't know. But I don't know how long COVID's going to last. I don't know how long, you know, we're going to be restricted in terms of social distancing and all that. But I do know that when I was out there a couple weeks ago, you know, with my mask on, socially distanced, it was not a safe place to be. So I would like our discussion to address the safety issue and the equity issue, and the fact that we are an enterprise district for this part of the budget. And, you know, because I don't believe that San Mateo County residents should be subsidizing, you know, people who are not in compliance, businesses that are not in compliance with our policies. I mean, everyone is struggling right now in their own way, or in his or her own way, from the pandemic. And so we need to be very cognizant of the fact that this part of the budget is an enterprise part. So I think that we need to, you know, get more information and kind of lean towards that way.
And just fill in some blanks there. Those off the back, out of the pickup sales, those are not permitted activities. They're not allowed, and we do our best to stop those when we do see them. Sometimes we're challenged with language barriers, and we're developing tools to deal with that. And the district's currently working on a Johnson Pier safety plan that will address some of those safety concerns that you have, that many have, with pedestrians, trucks, forklifts, and semis, all utilizing Johnson Pier at the same time.
Okay, so we do have public comments again, 2 hands raised on this particular issue. Captain Smitty,
I've sent the request.
thank you.
Thank you for taking my request. And again, thank you very much for addressing this issue. Part of what I'm seeing here is with such a disparity between what the district had received, $411 versus what the CPVs have paid, which is almost $30,000 here. I would ask that while you're reviewing the sales, that you bring some equity and waive our ticket fees until there is parity amongst the groups here. Again, we are being charged a tariff that and having to subsidize these other aspects. It's not fair to us to have to be continuing to pay while these others are getting carte blanche and moving forward with it. As the commissioner says, there has been a huge increase in the public on the docks, and I'm glad that that you commissioners are starting to address this. But I would just ask that the harbor ticket fees be waived so there's equity amongst all groups. Thank you.
Thank you. Tyler Butler,
Sent the request.
Yes, hello. Anyways, thanks for taking the time to let me talk here. Based on what Virginia was saying, I just wanted to kind of rebuttal that a little bit. I have, in my experience, not seen anybody selling out of the back of their pickups. I believe what she saw was, commercial fishermen loading and unloading maybe whether it's their product and or certain items in and out of their vehicles, because that is a loading zone. That is what it is for. Another reason why all those trucks are parked there is because of, like I mentioned before, the lack of permit parking allowed for the slip holders. So that really needs to be addressed. If you guys don't want us parked there because the regular parking is overwhelmed, and then we have not enough permit parking slips for the slip holders, what do you expect us to do? We end up parking there so that we can access our boats and run our business. On the other hand, I'm not sure if it was Smitty or one of the other charter boat captains that had mentioned before that they had tried to implement parking meters or paid parking meters for the revenue that you guys need. I think that should definitely be pursued, opposed to taxing a commercial fleet that's already so overwhelmingly taxed with certain regulations and like I said, lots of fishing time and everything else. So anyways, just please understand and try to do your best to seek revenue in a place where it might not hurt somebody as much as it would us. Like the parking meter might not discourage the people coming down to buy product if they only have to pay a few bucks to come down and buy what they want. Or just come visit the harbor and view everything because, let's face it, it's a public area and everybody wants to come and enjoy the beauty. So anyways, those are just a couple thoughts.
thank you.
Thank you. Mhm.
Bob Ingalls has his hand raised, Lizzie.
I've sent the request. Mr. Ingalls, I've sent you a request to unmute.
Myself.
Here, okay.
Okay, hello, operator malfunction. I would just like to make a quick little comment here that back in the mid 80s and early 90s when we had the Citizens Committee, we were against the parking meters, just to make it clear, because we think the public would not like the parking meters. Most places you go to, most harbors you go to, if you have parking meters, people complain. I know I always did when I went and visited somewhere. But to have an arm where you could park and pay for your day and get a validation, if you go buy some fish, if you go into the restaurant or the bar, or if you go into the tackle store or whatever you're going to do, you get a validation for your time there. That's not quite so bad. You're not really forking the money out. And that's what I was talking about, just to make it clear that all of us, John Kevin, who was on the committee, Heidi, was on the committee back then. We just try to come to a conclusion where all the working groups, all the people in the harbor kind of felt something good about something. And the parking meters were definitely no way. They were out. Nobody wanted them. People were talking about putting glue in them so they didn't work. They weren't going to happen. And still, I think the raise up and let a car in the harbor, even though it may cause a little backup, you could maybe move it a little further up out of the road. But it seems like the only way that could really give some revenue and make it fair on everybody. And that's what the point I was trying to get across. I wasn't trying to say anything else. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We have one, I'm going to take one more public comment from Jake.
Jake, I've sent you the request to unmute.
Yeah, okay. Do you hear me all right?
We do.
Great. Just one more quick thing to address what Commissioner Chang was talking about, and I do actually, believe it or not, as a fisherman who sells the majority of his products from my boat in Pillar Point Harbor, that's a huge part of my annual revenue, and I depend on it. And I'm actually okay with the idea of paying a percentage, as a revenue source for the harbor. I understand it takes money to keep the harbor going, and that's an ongoing issue for the commission. However, what I think needs to be done before any steps towards that are being taken are to look at the whole picture, like Commissioner, well, I forget his name, but he mentioned a full accounting and a full holistic look at the off the boat sales model and how it works, and safety and revenue generation. The whole picture needs to be looked at before, really, I think before anything gets talked about in concrete terms, because this is going to change a lot of the business models that we've set up over the last 9 years, setting up my business to try to be profitable with what I do, not taking into account a 2 or a however much percent, essentially a tax on the business that I do. And I'd also like to remind the commission that there was some comparison between off the boat sales and the wholesalers who also do retail sales there at the end of the pier. As retailers off our boats, myself, Mr. Butler, whoever else does it in the harbor, we do pay those landing taxes, just like the 3 captains and Morningstar and Pillar Point Fisheries do. So we're responsible for that as well. And with that, I'll sign off.
Thank you. So I just want to remind the commissioners that the motion is we're not making a decision today, but the motion that Commissioner Reiering made was just to direct staff to work with stakeholders to discuss issues, opportunities, enforcement, and constraints in the equitable collection of fees from commercial interests as they relate to direct off the boat sales, and bring back options for board consideration. So no decision.
Question?
Well, let me just ask one more question of the general manager. Jim, how long do you think this process will take before you can bring back options to the board for further discussion?
It'll take several months to get the full impact and public comment to get taken care of. My goal for this project, if the board wishes to pursue it, is to have it completed, done, and ready to go, so that in 2021, we're issuing the new permit instead of operating under the old permits.
Okay, so I don't think there's any more discussion. So from the commissioners, and there are no more public comments, so I'm closing that. So roll call, please, Melanie, from Commissioner Reiering's motion.
Commissioner Chang Crawley,
Aye.
Commissioner Reiering, Oh, I think you're muted, Commissioner Ryring.
Aye.
Commissioner Mathush,
Aye.
Commissioner Zemke,
Aye.
Commissioner Lorenz.
Aye.
That motion carries. Thank you very much, and thank you to the public who came here and took time to speak. So we will go to the next item, which is item number 14, which is the master plan development request for proposal. Jim.
Good afternoon again. This issue is our agenda item is the master plan development request for proposal. And we're requesting that the board consider staff recommendation to enter into an agreement with the preferred planning consulting firm resulting from the evaluation of responses to the RFP. The recommended motion is pursuant to a publicly advertised request for proposal, authorize the general manager to enter into a professional service agreement with the preferred firm, Dudek, for planning, consultation services, and development of a master plan for an amount not to exceed $348,281 with a 10% contingency in the event there is a need for due to unforeseen challenges, and authorize the general manager to issue change orders up to the contingency amount and approve increase in capital expenditure appropriations of $383,109 to be funded by available working capital. The master plan was approved last year in our 2021 budget. This is within our budget considerations. The process we did was we issued a request for a proposal. Last year, we received one response. The board decided that they would like more responses. So we reissued the request for proposal and got 5 responses. The director of operations, the director of admin services, and myself conducted interviews or reviewed all 5 responses and selected 3 for interviews. We conducted those interviews of the 3 responsive firms and determined that Dudek Consulting would best fit the needs of the district. You can see in the staff report all the requirements and things they will have to comply with, and recommend that the board does approve the motion as stated to select Dudek as the master plan consultant. And a representative from Dudek is here online to answer any further questions that I'm unable to answer.
Great, I'll open it up to Commissioner.
Motion is worded.
Sorry, Commissioner Mathush.
I support the motion as worded.
Okay, is there a second? Before we start to kick off the discussion?
I'll second that.
Okay, so I'll open it up to discussion among the commissioners right now. Commissioner Mathush?
The staff has done a marvelous job of looking at all the different groups, and I look forward to moving ahead with Dudek. As we know, our strategic plan, it's like a lot of pickup sticks. There's so many items in the strategic plan that we say, well, we're going to kick this down the road until we have the master plan finalized. We've got so much of the main skeleton all built and put together. I look forward to just moving ahead, completing this and putting it behind us. For years and years and years, we've talked about lack of a strategic and all these different plans. Let's get this into effect and show the public that we're moving ahead in the right direction.
Thank you. Commissioner Zemke?
Yeah, I've looked at this. I think that this is a good choice from what I've seen.
Okay, Commissioner Lorenz?
Don't have any comments.
Commissioner Ryring?
Yeah, I'm in support of it. I'm flabbergasted by what it costs.
But you're in support of it with the
I'm assuming that this is what it costs to generate a master plan, given all of the information that we already have about the direction that we're going and our strategic plan. And I mean, I have confidence that our staff has more knowledge about this than I do.
Was there, so Jim, would you like to address that or have someone from DUDEC address the cost issue? I mean, it's in the attachments, but yeah, I mean,
I could break in and just say that
sure, thank
that
you,
of
John.
course cost was with these professional services for a master plan, cost was something that we were able to take into consideration when choosing the firm that best fit the district's needs. And I will say that one of the competing firms cost proposal was over $900,000.
Oh my God.
So yes, cost was considered in the comparison of all 5 firms.
Okay. Commissioner
Thanks,
Riley, you just unmuted yourself. Do you care to make a comment?
Thank you, John.
Okay, I don't see any public comments. So if there are,
I would like to make
one more round. Yes, Commissioner Lorenz.
maybe John or Jim could take this. And what I'd like you to do, if you can, is give an idea of the public what is involved in working on a master plan, because clearly some folks don't really know what the process is and why. It might give folks an idea of why it's so expensive. It's not just a matter of writing a bunch of stuff down, making a list, and then approving it.
The master plan process is a very complex and in-depth dive into the district itself. It will include a complete condition survey of all physical assets of the district, the piers, the boat, or the piers, the docks, the floating docks, our buildings, and that will all that will be included. So also exploring additional avenues of revenue should the district expand or contract. So it's a much more complex process and in-depth, and it also involves multiple public outreach and public sessions to get the input from the county on what they want Pillar Point Harbor to look like in the future. And the same thing for what they want Oyster Point to look like and how they think the district should be running well into the decades into the future. So it's very comprehensive, very in-depth, and basically you'll address all aspects of the Harbor District.
And one last question related to this is, could you just, for the members of the public that are either watching this or going to watch this, just give a rough idea of what's the difference between the strategic and the master plan, because there probably is some confusion about that since we have both kind of running together.
We do, and the master plan will take the strategic plan into consideration when they develop the master plan, but the master plan is more really nuts and bolts. It will tell the district or give the district specific advice, where the strategic plan says this is where we want to be. It's a very good directional document. The master plan will say, this is where you want to be per your strategic plan, and this is some ways to achieve that and why you should achieve it. So it's much more in depth than the strategic plan.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? If not, then we'll just take the vote. I don't see any public comments.
Yes, so one of the things to point out is some of the subcontractors, I believe GHD has pretty much of a condition survey on the majority of everything we have. Granted, nothing they did in the past will apply to Oyster Point very much as before. However, there's significant progress being made. Many times in the master plan, you'll have a 5-year, but you have an annual update. So you measure where you were, what you're doing, and the direction you have to go. Public should be able to say, well, in November of 2022, these items should have been completed, and staff and the board will be able to address why or why not. So it's an extremely valuable thing for an operating document for this enterprise.
And the other, if I may, President Ferrari, the other great option with the master plan is when we apply for grant funding, they many times look for is this within the approved strategic plan for your organization and within your master plan, to show them that we have consistency in the projects that we say we're going to do and the projects that we complete. So it's a
Thank
very
you.
valuable asset for that.
Thank you. Any other commissioner comments? If not, let's take the vote. Roll call, please, Melanie.
Commissioner Ryring,
Aye.
Commissioner Mathush,
Aye.
Commissioner Zemke,
Aye.
Commissioner Lorenz,
Aye.
Commissioner Chang Corrali.
Aye. The motion carries. Thank you very much. Thank you for your presentation, Jim. And then we'll move on to item number 15, which is the Pillar Point Harbor Retail Space ADA Public Restroom Project. And John Moran, I think this is your item to report on. So if you'd like to kick off the report, that'd be great.
Yes, this is a recommended motion. Direct staff to solicit bids for construction of the preferred plan for the Pillar Point Harbor Retail Space ADA Public Restroom Project in accordance with the Public Contract Code invitation for bid process. At Pillar Point Harbor, the district leases out a retail space that is utilized as a restaurant bar known as Catch Joanne Restaurant and Harbor Bar, which currently has 2 small restrooms within it. The 2 restrooms are too small and inadequate to ensure equal access. In an effort to bring the restrooms into compliance with ADA requirements, staff publicly advertised a request for proposal to bring on a professional architectural design firm. Sally Swanson Architects, Inc. was chosen to lead the effort in creating plans for the construction of the new restrooms. Sally Swanson, Inc. also was the firm that the district chose, and they successfully conducted a ADA evaluation of both properties for the district, an ADA transition plan. Sally Swanson Architects worked to develop several restroom location design alternatives, reached out and conducted meetings with stakeholders, and hosted a virtual public workshop meeting to gain further public stakeholder input. Their design options were very well received, and the public input was considered in the final preferred plan. The Sally Swanson Architects team will now provide a project update and explain the preferred plan detail. If the board requires no substantial changes to the proposed plan, we can move forward with finalizing the plan, permitting, and soliciting bids for actual construction. Actual construction costs will be determined by competitive bidding within the Public Contract Code invitation for bid process. A rough engineer's estimate was construction costs somewhere in the neighborhood of $673,000. Once construction bids have been received and evaluated by staff, staff will present the lowest qualified construction bid for board consideration before any construction authorization would take place, before entering into an agreement with a contractor. All right, we've got Sally Swanson from Sally Swanson Architects. I think, Sally, you want to lead off?
I do. Can we see our PowerPoint? I'd like to share the process we have been working on. Let's see who will do that. Be prepared a PowerPoint. Alice, could we see the first one, not the last one?
Yes. I know. I'm trying to get that PowerPoint on. Here we go.
There we go. And I'll just tell you to move from one to another. We'd like to thank the board members for awarding Sally Swanson Architects the opportunity to create an equitable Pillar Point Retail Center. It's an interesting experience. Next one, please. Here I am, Sally Swanson. I specialize in architecture and in planning. and was really very excited about this project. Of course, I'm a sort of an ex-surfer, so Mavericks came high on my list. I'd like to share with you our project manager, Xiao. He'll be leading the project, and he's here with us today if you have any difficult questions for him. We have our project architect, Kathleen Wong. She has enormous experience actually in creating accessible design. Alice wanted to come along. She'll be your project designer. And we also have Rosmek. He's participating somewhere, and he's our construction manager. So he'll make sure that we design something that really fits your site and reflects the cost we projected. Next, please. Alice. So what we'll do today is we've had our introduction. I'd like to share the design schemes. You know, we were presented with 3 different design schemes and we worked on them. Then we'll give you a design scheme comparison table. We'll show you the various methods and ideas and what made our final design succeed. Shao will share with you a preliminary project schedule. We want to get this project started immediately. And we really hope that you've got some questions and answers. And I'm sure you'll have many. Next, please. There we go. So when we started, this is the existing floor plan. We have Catch Joanne right over here. We have our ice cream parlor to the right. We have our exterior. There's an exit here that leads to a parking area. And as you can see, the existing restrooms adjacent to the bar are not accessible. And as you can see in the ice cream parlor, we have a staff restroom back here, but I felt it was still kind of in the mix. It is still deciding where it wants to be and how it wants to serve the public. And we've understood that maybe you want to make it a coffee shop or a hobby shop, but it's still really in the making. It's a great little space. Next slide, please. I did want to note that the existing seating, the existing seating is 55 individuals.
Fine.
So 55, right? So here with the new seating is 48. But you can see that the restrooms take quite a bit of the space and they're uncomfortable, like to exit, entrance. And we've lost a lot of the seating. Now in the ice cream shop, we have some restrooms here, but of course it really reduces the square footage. And the interesting thing that we found out that by doing this, the refrigeration unit would have to be new and the storage unit with various different sinks and such would have to be new. So it wasn't such a bargain. I thought, well, this is going to do it. But cost-wise, it didn't. So we went to the next idea. And this idea actually proved to be very successful. Notice that the new seating here is 63. So we've gained about 8 different seats. Okay, Alice, next slide, please. So here are the restrooms outside. We felt that we would show it first, sort of topographically. Here's the parking, here's the stairs, and this is where they'll be located. So you can see that Catch Joanne has more seats and the ice cream shop has a lot of possibilities yet to be developed. But I'd like to just share the plan with you. Next slide, please. So as you can see, what we wanted to do was to make an exit from Catch Joanne, as well as hopefully from the ice cream shop. This would be a private restroom. We don't want the public to use it. It's just for Catch Joanne and the ice cream shop. We did a thorough code research and we found out that the women's needed 2 units, 2 water closets. We also looked at the men's and found out they needed a water closet as well as a urinal. And the nice thing we learned in our community meeting, was that we didn't want any hiding places. We wanted to bring the building close to the existing building as well as the stairway. But this would be a restroom. You just leave the restroom or leave the ice cream shop and utilize the restroom. And this sort of was voted on our community meeting to be the best solution. So let me explain why we think it's the best solution. Next slide, please. In scheme one, within Catch Joanne, obviously it's least expensive, but we've lost valuable space and seating, and it makes the restaurant very, very congested. And what I thought was great about the restaurant was actually the bar. Eventually we'll get to utilize it again when we get all well, but that was really condensed and a tight space. So putting the restrooms in there was not, to me, a very successful solution. I kind of like scheme two. It had better circulation. You had flexibility to expand and gain valuable space and seating in the restaurant, but it really reduced the space in the ice cream shop. And I just think that's kind of a gold mine, as I see more and more of the public are coming to Pillar Point. We really love the area. And this is a place to really develop the ice cream shop into something wonderful. It was, to my surprise, moderately expensive because all the new units we were going to bring in. And I understand there are leasing terms that need to be resolved with your board. So why do I think scheme three is the best? First of all, you can do wonderful things in the restaurant. You have better circulation. You provide a lot of flexibility to the district. And if your master planner says, hey, you need a new building, you've got to start. You've got a new facility. You don't have money you put into your old building to make it a new building. So you're investing money that'll work for you. Once again, you gain valuable space and seating in the restaurant and in the ice cream shop. So I think it's a great investment. So what are the cons? Well, it will be additional site work. It is more expensive. It will be a time-consuming approval process, and there will be extended construction. But I think it's a really valuable asset for that area. And it should work well with both of your facilities. And of course, you can add on, the way we've designed, you can add on as you renovate. So I just want to turn it over to Xiao to discuss the timeline. Next slide, please. Xiao, do you want to take it away?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Sally, and good afternoon, Commissioner. My name is Xiao Qian, and I am the SSA project manager for the Bullet Point Retail Center ADA restroom project. And SSA anticipate completing the project within 15 months from start to occupancy. Today, the design team has evaluated the site and building condition and developed a free conceptual design scheme, as Sally just shared with you. And we also conducted a virtual public workshop held on last month to receive feedback from the committee. And our team is here today to share the finding and make recommendation on the preferred restroom location to the board for authorization to proceed with design phases of the project, which will include schematic design, design development, and construction document. And then upon approval of final design document by the County Planning and CDP, Coastal Development Permit Department, the project will go out for bid for construction, and SSA and its engineer will then oversee the entire construction process until project completion. And throughout the project, we will continuously review the work, and in adherence to the program keeps the project on time and on budget. And if the project has gotten off track, and our management team will identify such costs promptly and reevaluate tasks remaining to be done, revise original schedule to allow for all work remaining to be completed by the required end date. Of course, we will closely monitor and control performance for the remainder of the projects. And next slide, please, Alice.
With that, we hope you've got some wonderful questions and we'll provide the answers. And this is a commitment to developing that area. I think that would be very positive and necessary.
Thank you, Sally and Xiao. I'd like to open up the discussion to the commissioners for questions and comments. Any comments, Commissioner Matoush?
Yeah, I think I heard Sally say, my first question was going to be, which plan would stand if tenant row is torn down? And it sounds like number 3 that would help us quite a bit. I guess the only concern I have is, will there be some angst about a set of stairs and not a second means of ingress?
Well, we did study that in great detail. If we would have, see, we want to make the restrooms just for Catch Joanne and the ice cream shop. We did not want to introduce the public. No surfers are coming to use these toilets. So we just want to make it for the people that are using these facilities. If we were to make it accessible, it would be very expensive. We'd have to get an elevator, we'd have to get ramps. It's not feasible. I would not, I mean, everyone who is physically disabled should be coming in the front doors and using these 2 facilities, Catch Joanne and the ice cream shop. So it doesn't make any sense to make the rear of the building accessible, and just cost-wise.
And I noticed the seating. I don't know if there's any value when we do these plans of talking about how much seating they have out front as well, so we know about passenger load.
Well, that's a good point. We did not look at the seating out front. We just looked at the seating in the facility for Catch Joanne. I get a sense that the ice cream shop is still yet to be developed. We're not really certain of the seating. Kathleen, you were the project architect. Do you want to share your seating count? That determined the number of restroom units. And unmute yourself, please.
Yes, the number of occupant that we use for scheme 3 is it was depending on the fixed seating inside the restaurant. It was not fixed seating inside the ice cream shop. There was fixed seating inside the restaurant and then the bar area, but not the outside. We didn't count the outside.
So remind me, Jim, the ice cream shop is not at issue here. It's Catch Joanne. Is that correct?
Correct. The ice cream shop is a separate lease, not under consideration. We did want to make sure that we looked at all options. One option with that building could have been putting the restrooms in the ice cream shop to service Catch Joanne and the Harbor Bar. But that really proved to be quite expensive also, and doesn't add any, as to Commissioner Mateusz's point, protection that if we do redesign the entire tenant row building, we can reintegrate that restroom. So my question to, if I may,
please,
President Corrali, is the outside seating on the sidewalk is pretty significant. It's almost equal to the seating inside. Not required under California state law to consider that seating. Right now, under COVID, it's kind of very restricted out there, but during normal days, there's picnic tables and chairs out there with a fixed number of seating for Catch Joanne's restaurant itself. So you have to consider that in the number of restrooms, or number of passengers or customers for the number of restrooms.
Thank you.
Will we lose any parking spaces off of this?
Yes, we will.
Based on the drawings, Commissioner Mateusz, it looks like 2.5 parking spots from the upper lot will be lost.
Commissioner Reines, do you have any comments or questions?
Yes, I do. Thank you for asking. So I share Commissioner Mateusz's concern, question, and something to think about is that at some point we are going to have to do something about that whole area. And if we spend over $500,000 on restrooms, at some point we're going to rebuild, and either we'll rebuild around the restroom so we can keep that part of the building since we spent a lot of money on it, or we do something else so that we don't get caught in that, what I would consider kind of a jam. Given the nature of COVID right now, we're not really doing much, if any, in-room dining. So my question is this: once we get through our master plan and strategic plan, maybe that's a better time to decide what to do about this ADA, because if we go the long route of building scheme 3, it's going to be time consuming for approval process anyway. So it's something to think about. Look at this in a broader context with respect to our master plan, and then make a decision.
Well, how long are we talking about? I thought this was an immediate need. And that's how, I mean, the master plan will take years. That's not gonna happen overnight. And this is.
Yes. Yes. So Jim, can you just,
Yes.
this was the legal issue that we have to deal with, correct?
Yes, we have to address the ADA requirements in a certain timeline. I have an extension, which if we are able to stick to the timeline published by SSA, that will comply with the court order. But in addition, Commissioner Lorenas, we did consider that question of in the future, the tenant rows the buildings are getting a little old and used, and that at some point it's going to have to be replaced. And taking into consideration the 3 different restroom locations inside the restaurant, inside the ice shop, or a standalone right outside the back door, it would be easiest to design with the outside restroom in mind, not necessarily around it, but with that restroom, instead of placing the restroom in the center of the current restaurant or ice shop. So that was considered, and trying to integrate this project with the strategic intent and what I believe the master plan will recommend.
I see. But it seems to me that if we build scheme 3 with the concept of incorporating it at a later date as part of tenant row, what you're really doing is you're fixing our options for what we do with tenant row around that site. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And a question for the architects maybe is, how long do you expect the permitting process and the approval process plus extended construction to take? Are we talking a few months or are we talking a year?
Shao, do you want to address that, please?
Yes, please.
Alice, you want to go back to the previous slide?
Yeah.
Yeah, if we got authorization to proceed with the design documents, we are right over February right now. It's going to take 3 months for us to finalize all the document, and we estimated about 2 months to get the approval of the proceed with the construction. It just, you can see on the PowerPoint slide the highlighted orange section of the area, and then once we got the approval process, and it's going to take another about 6 to 7 months or 8 months to complete the project with construction. So the overall, project schedule is 15 months, but we already starting the project on December, so we're well into February right now. So.
They've been moving along. I believe,
John, your connection's very blurred.
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
We can't even understand you.
We're going on that.
Not much better.
John, it might be helpful if you mute your video and call in on a phone. That might be the best way.
Jim, what is the legal extension date? What's the date, the drop dead? Because this has been extended before because of COVID as well. You're on mute, Jim.
I believe this is the third extension I was able to get, and it's till March 22.
March 20, as in next month?
March of 2022.
Oh, okay. I thought you said March
And
22, March 22nd of 2020.
I'll have to go back and confirm that, but I know, I'm pretty sure I should say, that it's the first quarter of the next year.
Okay, thank you.
And I'll confirm that with you.
Does that answer your question, Commissioner Lorenz?
Yes, thank you.
Commissioner Zimke?
Yeah, looking at this, I guess in my mind, I'm leaning towards going ahead with option number 3, even though there's the distinct possibility that in the foreseeable future, we're going to be doing something different with the building and updating the building. But all of that is probably going to be in front, towards the bay. And this is, you're basically digging a hole in the hillside to put in a restroom. So I don't see any development going back towards the restrooms. So the development's going to be out the other direction. So I see a lot of possibilities that this could fit in fairly well with a future renovation of the building and not interfere with that.
Yep. If I can't get in there, now.
No.
No.
Sorry, John.
Commissioner Corrali, that date was May 1st, 2022.
Of 2022. Okay.
So it's May, not March.
Okay. Commissioner Wiring, did you have any comments?
Yeah, I share Commissioner Lorenzo's and Mateusz's comments. But I don't see how we get around not complying.
I would agree with that too, Commissioner Wiring, but I also think that Commissioner Zimke's civil engineering background at least gives me some comfort to know that option 3 maximizes, our other options so that we're not stuck with a single design as we move forward on how to deal with the rest of Tenant Row. I know that Commissioner Mateusz has routinely said that there's a unique opportunity here, and it sounds like Commissioner Lorenz agrees, how we can look at a holistic design of Tenant Row, but we do have a legal issue that we have to comply with. And I think option 3 might give us the most flexibility, even though it's the most expensive. I see a hand raised, John Moore, and I think he's probably calling in at this point. John, can you hear us?
Yes, I was just going to address Commissioner Lorenz's concerns, which we all agree with Ed, and I think Bill did address them a little bit from the common sense perspective. The fact is, we don't have a lot of options here, and Sally Swanson Architects have been working in an aggressive manner at our direction so that we can, as we all want, try to get accessible restrooms for all of the patrons of the Catch Joanne to utilize that are in fact ADA compliant, not drag our feet and be talking about this in about how nice it would be to have ADA compliant restrooms, 2 years after COVID restrictions have been lessened. So the fact is the best alternative is what we have or what we're asking the board to consider today, which is the outside alternative that has a high likelihood of being able to be used in the event 5 to 10 to 15 years from now that entire building is demolished and something new decided upon and gone through a considerable public outreach process, permitting process, etc., and and ultimately built. You know, we can then decide whether or not we want to incorporate those restrooms into the new design, or heck, we might have gotten 20 years of use out of them already.
Thank you, John.
You know, another thing that I just thought of, not being part of the intense design, we're seeing the specifications, but is it possible to build the roof of that thing so strong that we could park a car on top and not lose any parking spaces? I don't know what the elevations are.
Close, very close, yeah. I don't know if we want to spend the money, you know, that would be the only thing. That would be a decision you'd have to make, but we certainly could do that.
Actually, the roof level is not going to be the level of the parking lot. The roof level is about it's going to be higher than the parking lot because the drop from the parking lot to the restaurant level is about 4 or 5 feet.
Okay, thank
Yeah.
you.
Sure.
Any other discussion or questions, comments? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to go with the staff recommendation to direct and authorize staff to solicit bids for construction of the preferred plan for the Pillar Point Harbor Retail Space ADA Public Restroom Project in accordance with the Public Contract Code invitation for bid process.
I will so move.
Second.
Okay, no other comments then? Then I will, let's take the roll call, please.
Commissioner Mateusz,
Aye.
Mr. Zemke,
Aye.
Commissioner Lorenz,
Aye.
Mr. Chang Crawley,
Aye.
Commissioner Wyring.
Aye.
Great, that motion carries. And then we'll go on to agenda item number 16, which is the fiscal year 2019-2020 audited basic financial statements. Julie.
Good afternoon, President Jane Crowley, Commissioners. Item number 16 on today's agenda presents the district's audited financial statements for fiscal year ended June 30th, 2020. Once again, the finance team led by Boomer Hennethorn and supported by Ray Wong, Kinyup Chan, Katie Mickelson, Melanie Hayden, and all the rest of the support staff have done a terrific job in putting together a fair and accurate picture of the district finances. We have David Alvey here today, who is the audit partner with Mays and Associates, and he is going to be giving us a brief presentation on our results. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Good afternoon, President and members of the Commission. My name is David Alvey. I'm a CPA and audit partner with Mays and Associates, and we are the Harbor District's independent external auditor. And our job every year is to come in and audit the financial statements and render an opinion that those financial statements are free from error and accurately reported so that you can use them for your decision-making process. The audit started back in September, where we did our field work. It was virtual this year just because of everything going on. But during that field work, we're looking at the internal control environment, making sure that not one person at the district can initiate, approve, and book a transaction all the way through without any kind of checks and balances. And then we're also looking at the actual numbers to make sure that they're fairly reported. So on the report that you had, the basic financial statements, the real meat of it is on page 1, and that is the audit opinion. And I'm pleased to say that it is an unmodified or clean audit opinion, and that's the highest level of assurance that a CPA firm can give an entity. So congratulations, you passed your audit. Right after the audit opinion is the management discussion and analysis, also known as the MDA. MD&A. And I would recommend that you at least review this. This is an executive summary of not only what the numbers were for June 30, 2020, but how they changed from the year before and why they changed. So just a couple of financial highlights I'd like to bring to your attention. Total assets and deferred outflows increased 3.1 million or 5.7% over last year. Total liabilities and deferred inflows decreased 113,000 or 1% over last year. Your total revenue increased about 6% or 745,000 over last year, and expenses dropped 4.3% or around 467,000. And a lot of the revenue changes and expense changes tend to happen or are because of things that happen through the year. You know, property tax for increasing, different FEMA money. I know some of your parking was changed. So all that is outlined in that management discussion and analysis. The second report we have for you is the Memorandum on Internal Controls and Required Communication. This is also known as the management letter. And this is a direct report from my firm to this commission about things that we found during the audit. And those can be categorized in 3 ways. The first is a material weakness, meaning something material can flow through the internal controls and not get caught. We have none of those. The second is significant deficiency, that something significant can come through the process and not get caught. We have none of those. And the last is a catch-all called other matters. And the only thing we have to bring to your attention in the other matters is just upcoming Government Accounting Standards Board pronouncement or GASB pronouncements. You know, in the past we had the pension and the other post-employment. Right now there's not a lot coming down the pipeline, so that's good news of that will really change the way financial reporting is done at the district. The second half of that document is the required communication piece, and that's just boilerplate verbiage. We had no disagreements with management. There was nothing unusual that we wanted to bring to your attention. And with that, I'd like to thank Boomer and Julie for all their help during the audit. Doing the audit in a normal year is difficult by itself, but with the shelter in place and the change of internal controls with that shelter in place, it's a testament to good internal control structure and good financial standings that you have no comments on the management letter. And I'd like to open up any questions you might have. Thank you.
I'll open it up to commissioner comments or questions. Commissioner Zemke?
Nope, looked good to me.
Commissioner Lorenz? You're on mute, Commissioner Lorenz.
Thank you. That's better.
Better.
I'd just like to thank everyone involved. I know it's a lot of work to do this, and every year it seems to get better and better, and I appreciate everyone's work.
Commissioner Ryring? Commissioner Ryring, do you have a comment?
Oh, here.
Okay, Commissioner Matoush?
Well, it takes a village, and I'd like to thank Mays, but also our staff. I know that they're working hard to keep us compliant and in excellent light. And all of us that finished that cybersecurity thing knows that, God, that was a chore in itself. So we're all working together, the board, the staff, and everything. And I'd like to thank everyone.
Thank you. I'm going to echo everyone else's comments and sentiments as well. Thank you, Julie. I know it's been hard, and thank you to Boomer and everyone on staff who helped make this happen. I'm just so proud of the financial shape that the Harbor District is in. I mean, I think that in a very uncertain time, you know, we were able to shine financially, and it's in great part to the staff work that's been done, and actually, quite frankly, the board philosophy of being fiscally responsible. Mays and Associates, David, y'all have done a great job. So thank you for being there and trying to, you know, help, not trying to, really helping and holding our hands while we're all going through, you know, this audit process during COVID and the pandemic and everything. But really, Julie, kudos to you and everyone on staff. So thank you. And Jim, you know, the buck stops with you. So I know that you are very proud and appreciative of your staff as well.
Yes, if I may, I think I want to send commendations out to Julie and her staff, Ray, Boomer. Fantastic job throughout the year and keeping us on track. And it's not that easy to do that. I know that. But this clean audit report, I believe, is the second one in a row under Julie's leadership in the admin and finance. And again, thank you to the Finance Committee for providing us support and direction to get us where we're at.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you again, Julie. Please thank everyone. Well, so we'll just receive the report and then we will move on to the next item, which is item 17, which is the Oyster Point Marina and Pillar Point Harbor Search and Rescue Update. So this is with John, Chris, and Jim. John Moran, Chris Tibby, and Jim Merlot. I know it's informational only, but I think that y'all have been doing a great job. John? I don't know if John can hear us, but Jim, do you want to kick this off?
Yeah, this is to bring to the board and highlight some of the search and rescue aspects that we do at the harbors, both Oyster Point Marina and the Pillar Point Harbor, but more specifically to the rescues is our partnership with our allied agencies that we interface with us almost on a weekly or daily basis in providing a teamwork of partnerships that respond to emergencies out there, to providing a total coverage of the area. So with that, I would like to turn it over to Chris Tibby and Jim Merlot to make that presentation. And then I think we also have a guest speaker that they'll introduce. With Chris, Jim.
Thank you, Jim. Good afternoon, commissioners and members of the public who might be present. And thanks for your patience in waiting, Dave. I really appreciate that, Chief Cosgrove. Let me just share my screen here really quick. So our primary consideration for today is search and rescue, otherwise known as SAR. I appreciate that, Commissioner Lorenas. Those TLA anachronisms in this world do get pretty specific. So it is good for members of the public to know exactly what we're talking about. So I appreciate that commentary. So search and rescue, or SAR, if you will, is quite unique here at the San Mateo County Harbor District because we do have a bay and ocean perspective to work with. I know of very few others that have that type of activity that goes in. So that is a unique opportunity for us to explore with all of our allied agencies and our training and our professional staff. So just take a moment there and look at the grandeur and greatness of that little spot. We can see Pillar Point Harbor just nicely nestled and cloistered in behind the natural geography of Pillar Point Harbor, or Pillar Point itself. But I think what this shot really tells us is how Pillar Point Harbor and the immediate coastline favors the skilled. The waters are active, the swell activity coupled with a varied bottom topography can create challenging and often dangerous conditions. And due to these conditions and the incredible opportunities for recreational and commercial boating, Pillar Point Harbor Patrol responds to, on average, year on year, 300 call outs, with 110 of those last year alone being SAR, and all of those 110 requiring at least some medical attention. Our predominant area of operation here at Pillar Point Harbor is approximately 12 miles north and 12 miles south. So for geographical reference, think of that as, say, from Devil's Slide, Gray Whale Point to the north, and San Gregorio to the south. This stretch of the coastline contains numerous pocket beaches, and that often lead to SAR activity with multiple agencies. Those pocket beaches are incredibly dangerous, as we know from the last tragedy. They're difficult to access, and so it requires a whole village to come and do a rescue there. Pillar Point Harbor Patrol has an extensive training regimen that is both continuous and focused on the complexities of the area of operation. We frequently train with the Coast Guard, CAL FIRE, CAL Park lifeguards, San Mateo County Parks, and San Mateo County Sheriffs. These allied agencies who represent the network of safety here on the coast. The most effective preventative measure, I don't think there's much argument here, to increase safety on or near the water is education. And this is a nice shot of our training officer, Carrie Smith, engaging with some future boaters, getting the work done. So to that end, the district has implemented well-received public outreach and educational programs towards boating safety and vessel preparedness. With the growing and popularity of stand-up paddleboarding and kayaking, Harbor Patrol has worked with outside groups, as well as made contact with many of the participants in these activities to educate and offer a vessel inspection to be sure they are prepared for a potential emergency. A significant amount of rescues are for kayaks and small open sport boats, and we feel that the educational outreach will help to thwart at least some of the dangers and provide the needed information for those who may be unaware. Along with this consistent training and our coordinated efforts, you can see the need for effective SAR response can be critical. San Mateo County Harbor District is proud to train and assist all our allied agencies and value the strong ties and the relationships that have been fostered to successfully offer aid to those in need. We are fortunate today to have a representative of one of our closest agencies that we work with on a near daily basis. It's our local CAL Fire Station 41, Chief Dave Cosgrove. Thanks, Chief, for being here today. And above all, I want to thank you for taking the time and for all that you do here on the coast side and for what you do with us here at Pillar Point Harbor. Dave?
Is this my opportunity to express my gratitude?
Absolutely.
It is.
Give us a word, Dave.
Commissioners and General Manager Pruitt and Deputy Harbor Master Tibby, thank you for this opportunity. As Harbor Master Tibby said, we do work almost on a daily basis. I've been here on the coast for 30 years. You're looking at a fire right there on the screen right now. We work hand in hand together with each other, and we're each other's backup and safety. In that picture right there, our policy is that we have to have water rescue people available to assist us when we're within 5 feet of the water. So we have to have those people there that are trained in water rescue to help us in that area. We do the same thing if we go on cliff rescue responses where the tide's coming in. It's the only asset that's going to get there in time with their rescue watercrafts or their rescue vessels to get out there. And we really appreciate the efforts that the Harbor Masters gives. I know I'm not too familiar with the Oyster Points program because I've been on the coast for 30 years, but I know you run the same thing on that side. So the support and the value that you guys have in that program is invaluable. By the time Coast Guard gears up and comes out here, as we know, there's not a lot of time when people get in trouble in the water with hypothermia, with the surf line, how long they can struggle to stay afloat. And we've seen effective rescues where they went in at the very last minute and effected a rescue from their watercraft to save somebody, where if it wasn't there, that person would have perished. So we just want to thank you for your efforts. The training we do, the training that was put together by Deputy Harbor Master Smith with all the agencies last week was phenomenal. Every agency learned from each other, and we work daily on these things, and I appreciate it very much. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, I'm here for you.
Thanks a lot, Dave. I really appreciate that. And you know, that was well said. That training that went together last week was absolutely phenomenal. I was duly impressed and just floored by the level of organization and professionalism of all those agencies working together. That was really something to see. I think our esteemed colleague, Jim Merlo, is out there somewhere, and he's going to have a little bit of a chat with you to update you on what's happening at Oyster Point.
Good afternoon, commissioners. Thanks for giving us this opportunity to give an overview of our SAR on both sides of the both facilities. This first picture is the OPM Challenger. It's a perfect vessel for search and rescue events within the Bay waters. The Challenger's shallow draft and ability to raise the outboard engines allows staff to access shallower waters for emergency response. Our area of SAR is from pretty much San Mateo County. Bay waters would be, we go from San Mateo Bridge all the way to the Bay Bridge, and then to the east about halfway across the bay. If need be, we extend those areas depending on other agencies' coverage and availability of other SAR units in the area. Next slide, please. Multi-agency training is invaluable for search and rescue responses. These trainings improve communications and also give staff knowledge of other agencies' assets and capabilities and response times. Next slide, please. The relationships that our deputy harbor masters have made with our allied agencies are invaluable and result in more efficient and effective responses by all the allied agencies. And if I may, I have a letter from Captain Jesse Lang, who's from the South San Francisco Fire Department. I'd like to read it this time. Dear Commissioners, my name is Jesse Lang, a captain in the South San Francisco Fire Department, a lead for our water rescue program. I also serve as co-chair for Bay Area Search and Rescue Council, which liaisons between the Bay Area Fire Departments and the United States Coast Guard. I apologize for not presenting this in person, but we are extremely short at work, and this is one of my duty days. I wanted to reach out to emphasize the critical needs for the response force that Oyster Point Marina Deputy Harbor Masters provide. The South San Francisco Fire Department has been training alongside Oyster Point Marina Deputy Harbor Masters since the inception of our Maritime program in 2007. Maritime program, sorry. The Deputy Harbor Masters have not only provided logistical support, but also training anytime we were able to schedule it. Our department now operates more efficiently, effectively, and safer because of this relationship. I'm also a state fire training officer that teaches open water rescue courses. I sat down the other day and counted the number of classes we did over the last 2 years, which was 15. Out of these classes, the Oyster Point Deputy Harbor Masters were involved supporting every one of these classes. As a bonus, we also worked with some of your folks from Pillar Point to work with rescue watercraft. We would not be able to train these firefighters from all around the Bay without the support of San Mateo County Harbor District. The students of these classes now operate in a safer manner due to cooperation, support, and expertise. I have also had the pleasure of working with the Oyster Point Deputy Harbor Masters in a response force capacity, both as a crew member on the Challenger and as a coxswain with the Harbor Master crew on the South San Francisco Fire Rescue Boat 62. All the calls with the crews work seamlessly because of previous training and excellent communications built through these established relationships. I've also had the pleasure of responding on emergencies where both the Challenger and Rescue Boat 62 were conducting searches. Again, due to the previous experiences established by our relationship, these searches went smoothly and were effective. In short, the long-time relationship we have between San Mateo County Deputy Harbor Masters, more often Oyster Point, is critical to our safe and effective operations here at South San Francisco Fire Department. Sincerely, Jesse Lang, Fire Captain. So yeah, that's pretty much all we have, but we'll take some questions if you have any.
Any questions from commissioners?
Just a strong congratulations to all involved.
Commissioner Zemke?
Oh yeah, I just wanted to add my congratulations and really appreciate the amount of cooperation there is between the city of South San Francisco and the staff there at Oyster Point.
Commissioner Lorenas? Ed, you're on mute.
There we go. I have a couple comments, and I'd like to first say, of course, that I'm very proud of the work these guys do. It's an amazing, amazing crew. You guys, I spend a lot of time on the water 3 or 4 times a week. And I often see you take off either on a jet ski or with the Radin or the other boats and come back and then later read about some fantastic rescue you've done. So congratulations to all of you. And also, I really appreciate the multi-jurisdictional work that you do. It's a real strong model for how search and rescue should be done. And I think it's also represents the fact that we are San Mateo County Harbor District. So we support the entire San Mateo County coast, which is really unique because it's on the bay and on the ocean. So congratulations to all of you. So I do have a question. Since I spend a lot of time mostly at Pillar Point, either kayaking out of the harbor or surfing the local beaches, I do see a lot of crazy stuff with, especially with human-powered activities like supping in the harbor. And we do have rentals of this kind of equipment. And we also have the yacht club. I'm thinking, is there some opportunity for us to use both the rental folks and even the yacht club as a way to educate people on basic water safety? Because I often see people on the edge of trouble. So that's kind of a general question for staff.
Yeah,
Yeah, Ed,
Commissioner
we've got-
Lorenz, it's a really strong idea, especially with those human-powered vehicles. You know, some of the smaller sailors, they can get themselves out of trouble. The whalers there, they're a little less susceptible to some of the hypothermic action that could happen. But I think, you know, you've seen it as well when somebody kayaks downwind and they're just cruising along doing 3 knots or so with the tide. They're pretty stoked that they get out there a few miles and then they have to turn around, and that's when they're in trouble. So we have implemented a pretty strong kayak awareness program right now, and we're offering this, what we're calling a registration sticker. There's no fee for it, but it just allows us to come out there and go through your kayak and maybe have a little chat with you and recommend those other, you know, not only the yacht club, but the kayak center, because they do give some lessons there in an effort to, you know, help them help us. But I think that's a good point to make, that it would be great to have some awareness from the club and from Half Moon Bay Kayak and possibly even the Mavericks rentals there. Any of those with those caps should be involved if they're renting those vessels in helping to disseminate the positive educational experience.
It seems to me it's an opportunity for us to set some basic standards for them with respect to teaching the public that uses those boats. I've often see people, I'm out on one of the epics and I'll be paddling and I know the winds are going to come up in the afternoon. I see people out of the harbor and it just doesn't look like they're in a safe place. So I'll paddle up to them and just check in, and sometimes I just tell them, you know, you really need to get back in the harbor before the winds pick up. So yeah, I appreciate it. And you guys, again, do great work. I see it all the time.
You know, the proactive approach that that Chris has led with his team, and Jacob Walding, I gotta say his name. You know, he talked with Chris and I about the implementation of this new plan, along with our training officer, of actually numbering the kayaks as well as in a voluntary program, along with training and review of safety measures. And then in the event that we do find the kayak unmanned, we would have contact information. So we'd be able to ensure or to check to see if the person was lost, or if in fact, you know, they had just stored it somewhere, tied it up and it broken loose. So that was just really a proactive, great idea that staff came up with on their own, again, led by Harbor Master Tibby, and our training officer, along with, I know, Jacob Walding had a lot to do with it. And I want to thank General Manager Pruitt for introducing this item. He said everything I was going to say, except for I was just going to make a couple more comments about what a great job all of our teams at both Oyster Point and Pillar Point do. You know, it's not just the SAR, the search and rescue, but our teams do daily maintenance just like any other large marine facility. We're doing, you know, we've got harbor workers as well that pitch in when there's bad weather coming to help tie up boats that are neglected, to constantly be looking out and vigilant for safety issues, potential safety issues, and cleanliness of the entire facility. Our heroes at both Oyster Point and Pillar Point, essential workers, rescue first responders, didn't flinch when the first COVID scares came. They worked straight through it without falter, didn't miss a schedule. When there was a lot of uncertainty, when the COVID concerns first arose, nobody knew that it was really going to be something that that might adversely affect the elderly and those with pre-existing conditions more than young and healthy. Our staff didn't flinch, hung right in there, even though regretfully 2 of our staff did end up coming down with COVID. Fortunately, they were recovered really quickly. But our efforts continue to take the COVID-19 concerns very seriously, and we've got signage up everywhere and constantly are reminding all of the public to wear masks and socially distance, both at Pillar Point and Oyster Point. It also does need to be mentioned what a great job Jim Merlo at Oyster Point and Chris Tibby at Pillar Point are doing with regard to constantly maintaining and ensuring all of our rescue assets are maintained 100%. That's no little task. Under Jim Merlo's direction, we just had the Challenger, the vessel that he highlighted, repowered. We also, just a few years ago, totally redid the vessel Radden, the rescue vessel. New engines, totally redid it from the hull up. And that brings me to my last point, is just, we want to thank our Board of Harbor Commissioners who constantly support our operations. And without that support from all 5 of our harbor commissioners, it has always been one thing that all of our harbor commissioners agree upon, is the support of our operations. And we really appreciate that. And if it weren't for our harbor commissioners' support, we would not have the professional assets and the professional training and the ability to partner with Chief Cosgrove and Captain Lang and all of our other allied partnerships. It is due to our Board of Harbor Commissioners' courage and support, and we appreciate it.
Well, I want to make a comment as well. I want to thank I want to thank our Harbor Patrol crew and our partners, Coastside Fire, Chief Cosgrave. Thank you so much for working and strengthening the partnership. I wanted to put this item on the agenda because of the tragic events that have happened along our coast with the latest one about a month and a half ago, the 12-year-old being swept out to sea, because I don't think that enough recognition is given to our Harbor Patrol crew and what the role that they play. And I know that we have had great relationships and just a great working relationship with the other first responders, including the sheriff's office and the fire district, the Coastside Fire District. And this is just on the coast. Haven't even touched Oyster Point yet. But I just want to thank the Harbor Patrol crews for both sides, the Oyster Point area and Pillar Point, for all the work that you're doing. It's tough work on top of all of the things that you're already doing at your respective, area, in your respective areas on land. Like I said, I saw Pillar Point Harbor just brimming with people. So on top of doing what you're doing for water rescue, the other personnel who are working, on Johnson Pier are also doing a great job. It's we're here for the public. We're here to provide, a service, and with no place to go or very limited numbers of places to go for during the pandemic, I think that it puts all of y'all in front of the public more than ever. And on top of that, with the water rescue, it's critical, the work that you do. So thank you for doing that, and thank you to our partners as well. But that's one of the main reasons I wanted this on the agenda, is just to recognize the work that you do at both Oyster Point and Pillar Point. And Jim, I know that it can be busy out on the bay, but it hasn't been as dramatic as the coast side with the the drownings. But we're not gonna let y'all feel like you're not valued, because you are. So thank you. So if there are no more comments, then we can go to the last item, which is the mid-year budget review, item 18. And I know it's information only, but it is important. So Julie, would you like to start off this report?
Sure, thank you. For the first 6 months of the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2021, the district is expected to have a better than projected year. The total positive variance is estimated at approximately $1.9 million. This money can be used to fund overages and spending of capital projects and other one-time things that may come up. The reasons for this positive variance include an additional surplus at June 30th, 2020, which was the financial report that we just received from David Alvey. And that's associated with higher than expected property tax revenue, higher interest income, lower salary and benefit costs, and lower operating costs, leading to approximately $1.2 million in additional funding. Also, this fiscal year, there are a couple one-time variances, including a $500,000 distribution and ERAF, which is the Education Revenue Augmentation Funds, another $500,000 in lower than anticipated election costs, and that's offset by a higher than expected cost for the Pillar Point West Trail Shoreline Protection Project for about $1 million. In addition, when we did the 2021 budget, we anticipated that benefit costs were going to increase about approximately 25%. The benefit costs, the premiums, the healthcare benefit costs, the premiums that are coming in January only were 4 to 12% increases, not the 25% that we expected. Also, we paid down about $2.3 million in our long-term unfunded liability for CalPERS retirement. That has decreased our required employer contribution by about $120,000 per year. This is a very high level summary of where we're going to be at the end of the year. And it's only for the next 6 months that I'm projecting. The next year's budget will give us more detail on what to project in future years. But for this particular fiscal year, we're doing very well, even with the COVID and all the different challenges that we've been addressing. So with that, I can answer any questions.
I'll open it up to commissioner comments. Commissioner Zemke?
Oh, yeah, thanks for the, oh, am I muted?
No.
Oh, okay. Thanks for the report. And it's comforting to see our financial position. I know it takes kind of pressure off of the other things we need to take a look at. So thanks very much for the report.
Commissioner Mateusz?
I echo what Commissioner Zemke just stated. We're moving in the right direction. We got our eye on the ball. Things are going well.
Commissioner Lorenz?
I'm in complete agreement with everyone. Great job.
I agree. Great job, Julie and staff, and just like I said, I think we're in great financial health. We're also very fortunate to live in an area where our property values are going up, and therefore our property taxes are pretty strong as well. One of the things that I promised to bring back to the board at a future time after looking at the financials was something that the board approved, which was the $2,000 bonus for the harbor patrol crew or harbor personnel crew. And given the financials right now, after having looked at them, I would like to bring that back as a potential future agenda item. We thought about at the time looking at another $2,000. So is that something, well, that, I mean, I would like to bring that back. I'm not sure. I mean, we're not at the item yet where we're putting on future agenda items, but you know, I guess we could add that on here if you would like to do that, at least to consider this additional $2,000 to at least look at it and have staff give us a report on whether or not it would make sense financially. So
President Crowley, if I can make a recommendation that if you'd
please.
like to add that as a future agenda item, that that you remake this motion or thought at that point, and then the
Okay.
board can vote on it.
Okay, perfect. Okay, again, thank you very much for keeping our finances healthy, Julie, and please give our great thanks to the staff as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. So Commissioner Lorraine has pulled off the consent calendar item number 4, which is the monthly capital projects update. So we can circle back to that now. And John Moran, if you would like to kick off that report, or is there a reason, Ed, that you wanted to take it off?
Probably more efficient if I just comment on
Okay,
why
please.
I pulled it off. I'll probably pull this report every public meeting that we have it, because it gives an opportunity for us to highlight some things and ask questions. So it'd be better to see this on the discussion agenda. In this case, there's a lot here, and since we're kind of running out of time and I'm sure people are tired, I'll just stick with the West Trail project. As was mentioned before, there were a few of us that were at the Coastal Commission hearing. I'd like to put in the record, I'll send it to our staff to put on the record what I said at the Coastal Commission hearing. Definitely in support of this project. And one of the questions I have is, did we ask the California Coastal Conservancy for funding? Is that something we did? Because I've heard from them that there is some funding available for this project. And just a general comment for these updates, it would be nice to maybe at the end of each one of these items, if it's appropriate, to just have maybe an outline or a list of what the funding, where we are with respect to funding, so that it's easy for us to see, but also for our members of the public.
Yeah, I can add that, Ed, in my activity report, just for the public's knowledge. I know the commissioners already are aware, but in my in the regular operations activity report, I do have the monthly grant effort summary. And yes, we're looking at every single possible grant opportunity for all of our projects. But that said, anybody, any members of the public or commissioners, of course, want to shoot me an email and say, hey, did you guys look at this one? I'll shoot that to our consultants and to our actual grant consulting firm just to ensure that we're not overlooking anything.
Yeah. So do you, excuse me, do you know if we reached out to the Coastal Conservancy?
Ed, I believe so, but I'll get back with you on that.
Okay.
I believe we've reached out to them on Surfers Beach and West Trail.
Okay.
And there's, I keep getting so much feedback back from both, like Brad Damitz. Brad Damitz is working on both the Surfers Beach and the West Trail project as sub-consultant with JHD on the West Trail project. He has sent me, I can't tell you how many. I got 2 emails today regarding grant opportunities for Surfers Beach. So he is, I'm confident he is on it. Plus, the board has dutifully, I believe, and I believe an excellent decision, brought on California Consulting, the largest grant consulting firm in the state of California, to assist us with all of our projects. And I have monthly meetings with Jamie, the grant consultant that is assigned to the district, along with her immediate supervisor. So they've got a whole team looking at all of our projects and are looking at all of the opportunities for funding and the challenges that surround those. Frankly, we've started down a couple times, down paths to apply for grants, just kind of hoping that they might find ways to consider us, even though our projects didn't meet the exact parameters. Because of their experience, they know that from time to time, if there's not perfect projects that have submitted, they'll reach outside of those parameters a little bit. So I'm confident we are doing everything that we can to identify any potential grant funding for all of our projects, including a focus on Johnson Pier and the replacement of HDOC and the fuel dock.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Lorenz. Any other comments or questions from commissioners? Okay. So now we'll move along to the commissioner comments section. Each commissioner will have 2 minutes to make comments. Commissioner Mateusz.
Dungeness crab season is starting to wind down. Many of the big boats are leaving. There's still some Dungeness crab being caught, not as prevalent as it was. I can tell you I've seen a couple of gray whales as they're starting to make their way north on the coast. So that'll be an opportunity soon. That'll pick up. Probably by May, we'll have our humpbacks. I was in the Dungeness Crab Task Force Whale Entanglement Group Risk Assessment Management Program this morning, and all is still going well, no entanglements. So all in all, the ocean is treating us well.
Commissioner Zemke.
Thank you. I just want to give a recognition to our staff that's working out at Oyster Point. If anybody's been out there in the last year or so, it's been a lot of changes. Roads have moved around. They've rerouted the trail for a ways. Every time you go out there, you're going in a different way. The parking lot for part of our yacht or part of the harbor is going to be moving to a new location temporarily. And as a result of all that, I know the staff has had challenges dealing with all of those changes. And one of the more recent challenges was as a result of the work that Kilroy is going to be doing to revitalize the portion of the Bay Trail, the pump station that handles the sewage from the restrooms was flooded and inoperable for a while. I know that Jim told me that they're working to get that back online, but in the meantime, they did put portable restrooms out there, and they're doing their best to try and keep the public safe and secure, and also provide facilities for them to use. So I do appreciate the work that's been done out there.
Thank you, Commissioner Lorenz.
Yes, I have a couple comments. First, just some of the meetings I've attended. I met with folks from the Regional Water Quality Control Board to discuss their report, excuse me, on Pillar Point Harbor and to give them some input. Also met with the Marine Protected Area Collaborative. It's a group of public and government agencies that discuss issues surrounding MPAs. And we met to talk about Pillar Point reefs, the issues that are happening there. And I'd like to say that our GM did do some great work in putting up some signage as one of the asks from that organization. And then I was at the Coastal Commission hearing, as was mentioned before. I'd also like to just reread something I read several years ago when we removed members of the public from committees. And I'll give that to Jim to put on our website for our record. So this is what I said over a year ago, several years ago, actually. We are extremely fortunate to have members of the community willing to serve on our committees. San Mateo County has over 40 commissions and committees. Some, like the Mid-Coast Community Council, have elected members. Others, like the Commission on Aging, are populated by interested members of the public who are appointed by the Board of Supervisors. Most of the commissions and committees are populated by members of the public and with members of the Board of Supervisors. Committees are a valuable and important resource for local government, including San Mateo County Harbor District. They generally serve an advisory role and make recommendations to the appointing body. Note, I said make recommendations. Appointing members of the public to committees ensures absolute board control. Appointing members of the public to committees provides organization an opportunity to tap into vast resources of expertise, passion, and commitment. Appointing members to committees ensures they are populated by active members. It encourages members of the public to participate. Appointing members of the public to committees is one of the best outreach mechanisms available to our organization. Strong committees do great work and encourage the public buy-in. Committees are especially valuable when they include members of the public and the board with divergent points of view. They research, they network, they do public outreach, and they reach consensus and eventually make a final recommendation to the board for discussion and approval. Our district, by excluding the public from appointment to our committees, has lost all of this, and worse yet, has sent a shameful message to the people we serve that their voice is not important. Thanks.
So my comments, well, I had a busy week. I went to the State of the Coast side with General Manager Jim Pruitt, where I introduced him and I talked about the district elections that we held in 2020. I think there was a lot of confusion at the time. And so I think attendees at that State of the Coast side liked and appreciated the information and some clarity about district elections, since we have another cycle left for that. I also want to commend Jim for doing a great job at the Coast side, State of the Coast side address that was sponsored and hosted by the Half Moon Bay Coastside Chamber of Commerce. Jim's presentation was absolutely compelling, and I thought that he had great reception from the audience. So congratulations, Jim, and thank you for doing such a great job representing the Harbor District. I also was at the Coastal Commission meeting where I gave public comment about that, and I will submit my public comment as well for the public record of the Harbor District. I did speak as the board president, and I felt it was really important to have someone there representing the Harbor Board, since it is a project that we have been working on for the last 6+ years. And again, I want to make just one more shout out of gratitude to our Harbor Patrol folks. This situation with the 12-year-old being swept out to sea at Cow Ranch Beach, I think affected a lot of people, especially parents, friends, even on the Bay side, people were talking about it. And I think that it was traumatic. It made national, and even I saw it in the international papers. And so I just want to, give another shout out to our Harbor Patrol personnel. And Chris, Tibby, thank you for what you're doing at Pillar Point and all the hard work and managing everything. And Jim Merlot, thank you for what you're doing and managing Oyster Point as well. And please thank your crews. So with that, we'll go to the next item, which is F, future agenda items. And as I mentioned earlier, I would like to put a future agenda item on probably next month's agenda to revisit the bonus compensation for our Harbor Patrol crew. This is something that last year the board approved, which was a $2,000 bonus, and I had promised that I'd bring this back after looking at the financials for another possibility of doing another bonus of $2,000. And of course, this is not a decision that will be made today, but it would be a future agenda item for us to discuss.
Commissioner Corrali, can I just ask for some clarification?
Sure.
The last bonus was given to the essential workers
Yes.
required to report to their place of employment, which included the harbor masters and the harbor workers. Or you want to have that same group of people?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, I don't have the last resolution in front of me, but yes, whatever we did last time in terms of essential workers, what we did for the essential workers, I would like that to be identical, because that's exactly what we discussed. I think when was it that we approved the first bonus, in November or December? I can't remember, but anyway, it was in 2020. It may have been, yeah, it was either November or December, but yes, it would be for the identical group of essential workers.
Okay, thank you.
Want that as a agenda item?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to include that for the March agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
Any comments or questions? Okay, so let's do a vote on this, and then we'll we'll entertain other future agenda items from other commissioners if there are any. Roll call, please, Melanie.
Commissioner Zemke,
Aye.
Commissioner Lorenz,
Aye.
Commissioner Chang Crawley,
Aye.
Commissioner Wiring,
She had to leave. Sorry, she had to leave early.
Commissioner Matoush,
Aye.
Okay, so that motion carries. Are there any other future agenda items that anyone would like to put on? Okay, so then we'll move to the activity reports. If you'd like to provide the highlights of them, Jim and John, that would be great.
Just wanted to comment that it's been an extremely busy time of the year for both harbors with the crab fishing season kicking in and keeping Johnson Pier safe. The harbor masters have done a great job, and the deputy harbor masters have done a great job going out there and making sure we had emergency access and that people were doing well. The same thing for Oyster Point Marina. Commissioner Zemke is correct. It is an interesting place to work over there right now. It's a mud pit in some areas. It's flooded area in other areas. And our guys and gals over there are just doing a fantastic job making sure that we maintain access to our floating docks for our tenants and making sure that we have services available to our tenants. The portable restrooms, the district is not incurring any cost on that. That was worked out very well with Jim Merlot working with the construction company and contractors to make sure that we were taken care of over there. So both Chris and Jim have done a fantastic job this month in keeping things going. And again, it's just the admin staff, to commend them again on the budget process and the clean audit. And I expect the same for this year because we're maintaining those same standards. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Any questions or comments of the general manager? Commissioner Lorenz?
No, thank you.
Commissioner Zemke? No, you. Commissioner Matoush?
Motion to adjourn.
Okay. Is there a second?
I won't take that personally.
We had a really good meeting. Is there a second to the motion to adjourn?
I will second that.
Okay. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Commissioner Lorenz,
Aye.
Commissioner Chang Crawley,
Aye.
Commissioner Ryring, Commissioner Mathush,
Aye.
Commissioner Zemke.
Aye.
So
Thank
the
you.
motion carries and the meeting is adjourned at 3:51. Thank you so much. I thought it was a great meeting and just full of information. Thank you.
Take care, everyone.
You too, Bill.
Bye, bye.
Bye, John.